So we've been through the all the classes that I wanted to teach in the Vayus, and I mentioned that I will be pulling those back in with some blended routines. But for today, I'd like to just kind of take a look at a little bit of movement mastery, and I'm going to infuse it with yin. Just have some props available. This one was inspired because I'd gone for a run slash walk the other day, and kind of just all came to me as I was walking. The things that we might like to improve for walking or running. It could also be a post workout or pre workout. Not really stretching, but just some movements that will support actual walking or running. But you could also use it for pre-workout, depending on whatever it is. You could even do it for bike riding if you want, but a little bit more in line with walking or running. So the props that I'll ask you to have are a couple of blocks, and we'll be starting with those right away here. I'm going to line them up so that they're lengthwise, just because my big foot's got to fit on there. If you got a smaller foot, you may just need to use one brick. I'm going to bring these ones over here. The other thing that will be very handy to have for this particular practice with the little bit of yin that we're going to do, there's going to be 3 yin poses, is a blanket. So that'll be cushioning for the knee once we get there. And for me, this is morning time. I've been for my workout and I'm still having my coffee. So grab your coffee or tea or pre-workout, post-workout drink, whatever you're having. So the workout that I'm creating here is post-workout, and I'll talk more about that toward the end. So I'm going to just bring my foot up onto the blocks so that I create some space just to allow my leg bone to move. So if you're thinking about that this was a walk or a run, this is the plane of movement. It's called the sagittal plane. That's the plane of movement that I was doing as I was running. So I'm just going to kind of meet myself where I'm at, but it's going to go back to what I was doing. It's kind of like a little pendulum. We're just going to let that sort of slow down. We'll turn to face the front a little bit. So now you can see as I allow the leg to just dangle here, I'm going to just start to do some internal, external rotation. It's a little bit of balance involved, but you can use your hand on the wall to help support and not topple over, as well as thinking about this support leg that you're feeling down into the center of the heel, the ball of the foot, and the base of the baby toe. You'll also probably feel a little bit of pressure on that glute. And then we'll just I'm going to put both hands here. I'm going to move away from this picture, actually. It's sort of in my way. I'm going to bring both of my hands to the wall now and just let that leg come out and across. So this is the frontal plane. So we're moving this leg bone in the other planes of movement because they're supportive planes of the sagittal plane that you use for the walking or running. All right, and we'll go to the other side. So I'm hopping up on my right and can't get that full extension here because now I've got the wall that I'm hitting, but that's okay. As long as you guys have kind of got the gist of this, we're just allowing the leg to sort of pendulum swing. So you can see how this would be good for beginning of the workout as well. Okay, and let that leg just sort of dangle there. And then start to work that leg bone. So you can see my leg bone is moving, but my hips aren't. My hips are staying level. And as you go through this, just notice a little bit about what you're noticing from one side to the other. Come across the body, moving now in that frontal. This one where you're corkscrewing is the transverse plane, and then back and forth. Ugh. Not as easy. There we go. All right, so I'm going to come down, kind of rub those cheek muscles out a bit. Another little sip of coffee. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of hip hinging. Firstly, from a split stance. So if you're standing here, legs at hip distance apart, we're going to bring external rotation to the right leg with a little bit of extension and a little bit of external rotation. Just bring your hands to the hips, and I'm going to go sideways so that you can see. I'm just hinging. So now my leg bones are in just a split stance, and I'm really working my hips on the leg bones. And we're kind of reaching, you want to be rounding like this. You want to keep yourself nice and long through the torso. So kind of reaching off that lower back. We'll do 2 more on this side. And all you need to really do to get to the other side is pivot to the front and then pivot to the other side. So making sure that the hips are level, and then we start the same process on this side. Your hands can just kind of lightly rest on the hips. And you're also feeling a little bit of a stretch down the hamstring. Oh, it feels quite nice. So I'll do 1 more, and then I'm going to pivot to the side again. And wider leg stance and a block. So if you're thinking about walking or running, we have to think of us as a whole system, not just about the leg bones. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she has some running tightness through her shoulders. So this is really important that we get some movement through the ribs and also be very upright as we're walking or running, as well as continue to improve movement through your scapulas. Okay, so right now we're going to not worry about the scap so much. We're going to go into a rotation. So I'm going to bring that block down as I hinge forward. So now we're in a wide stance, hinge forward. So I'm still moving my bum back as my rib cage comes forward. I'm going to place the block underneath my face at a height where I'm not rounding. So if I was going to go to the floor, this is what I look like. If I bring it up to a block, this is what I look like. So quite different. I'm going to soften both of my knees. And from here, I'm going to just start to bring my right top of the hand on the sacrum. I'm going to inhale and then exhale. I'm going to start to rotate open to the right side. And I'm going to back off. I'm going to go to the other side. So we're just going to alternate this. And again, make sure that you're keeping the hips steady. You're not like dumping one hip down. Nice elongated spine. And then that rotation to the left. So you're working the ribs relative to the hips. Okay, and we're going to go back again to the left side. So we've done 2 on either side now. And we're not forcing to crank those ribs around deeper. If the body kind of allows it, that's perfect. So now we're going to go back to the right side, and we're going to inhale here as you get to the stopping point. And then on an exhale, there might be a little bit more space. Can you add the contraction of the abdomen in and up, and then we'll go to the other side. So now we're elongating, we're rotating. So now we're going in the transverse plane again. And getting a little bit more space perhaps through those ribs. Okay, so the ribs working with the hips and the hips working with the ribs are so essential, especially for our walking and running, hiking, any of those things. So come back up now. So we've done a little bit of rotational work at the ribs relative to the hips. All right, A sip of coffee. Yummy, yum. Now I'm going to get a set of blocks. And this is where now we're going to come into a little bit of holding. So I'm going to just get my stopwatch in position here. And we're going to move into a low lunge. In fact, we're going to start in a high lunge, but then we're going to have that blanket there so that we can get into a low lunge easily. So I'm going to take my blocks. I'm going to step my left leg forward. Now you can see that that knee is tracked neatly over the ankle. I'm going to, excuse me, extend the right leg back, so curl in the toes. And I don't want to dump into my shoulders because that creates tension. So I'm just going to lightly have my hands on the block. So it's just kind of like just below the knuckles that I'm resting on the block. You can see that I'm keeping my spine nice and straight. I'm going to get a little bit of a retraction of the shoulder blades. All right, so we're just going to stay there. We're going to be in this high to low lunge for about 90 seconds. And I'm going to start the timer right now. So that first half a minute, we're here in the high lunge. So if you think back to my yin days, I did teach a little bit of that back in the day, that the breathing was just very easy. We're not doing any ujjayi breath. We're just kind of allowing the breath to sort of just be. We're also looking at signals from the body that are perhaps telling us that we need to move. That's the only thing with these watches. You have to tap them to see where you're at. All right, so we're there. We're going to drop that knee down. So the right knee's on the floor now. And now we're in this low lunge. Might be a little bit easier as you're not needing to use balance so much. So just be peaceful in the breath. And 5 seconds, we're going to switch to the other side. Okay, so start to bring that leg back. And if you need just to kind of bring yourself to the center, excuse me, wiggle the hips a little bit. And now we're trading the other side. So I'm going to bring my right leg forward. The knee is going to neatly go over the ankle. Give a little stretch there. And remember, the shoulder blades are not hunching. They're kind of neatly retracting, but not like a strong retraction, just making sure that you're not rounding. And the other thing that I notice where I may hold tension is in the muscles in my face. So sometimes I just kind of do a body scan and just notice where else I might be gripping that I don't need to be. So we're going to do 3 of these yin poses, although we're not really holding them long enough really to consider them yin, because a lot of those poses are held for quite a few minutes at a time. We're just doing 90 seconds. We're going to drop that back knee now, and then position for the rest of this 90 seconds. I can feel a little bit of tension creeping in my shoulders, and I'll move those blocks and just allow those shoulder blades to relax. Let's see where we are here. We're just about there in 5 seconds. And then we're going to bring that leg back and bring both knees onto the mat. Now, before we even go into our next yin posture, we're going to just bring those blocks. So you can see I just kind of rolled back onto my feet. I'm gonna bring the blocks out in front and drop my knees on the blocks and just a little bit of a stretch through my feet. I actually forgot to tell you one prop that another prop that I wanted you guys to have, and it would be a tennis ball or a massage ball. So I'll just give you a moment to go and grab that right now, if that's available. What I love about videos, you can pause the video. And I'm going to come off those. I'm going to grab my block or my ball myself. So mine is a massage ball. This one is a bit of the smaller one, close to tennis ball size. Well, maybe not. Anyways, it's going to do for this. So I'm glad it's green. You'll be able to see where I'm placing it. My last sip of coffee, which is no longer warm. All right, so now I'm just going to come up onto that ball and just kind of roll around. And as I've mentioned before, you don't want to be dumping down on that ball so much that you're really overdoing it. And that pressure point is kind of like almost painful. Just want to lightly massage around the areas that may have some sensation. All right, and then we're going to swap to the other side. So you can see it's a little bit of information for yourself. So you can kind of know a little bit about what you're sensing in your glutes and if there's some tightness or heaviness. And if you do find an area where it feels exceptionally tight, do a little bit of work around. Don't actually go into the space that's quite painful. Just work the ball around the tissue that's around the area that's uncomfortable. You might go into the area that feels particularly tight. Just put a little bit of pressure and then let go. All right. So now we're going to go into our next yin sort of posture, which is half saddle. So I'm going to extend my right leg out straight. I'm going to lie back and I'm going to just bend my knee. So my left foot goes off to the side and just allow that leg to hang. Now, as that quad muscle starts to release, you'll find that the knee will go closer to the floor. I'm going to have to take this clip out for a moment because I'm going to rest my head. And I actually will even use this blanket for a little bit of support. All right, so we are going to actually hold this one at we're at 7 right now, till 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So we're going to go for 1.5 minutes. So believe it or not, we're working and stretching out the quad, but this is also a little bit of a back bend. So you can even close your eyes here and just allow the body to just settle. Breathe easy. Ironically, it's Friday morning at 9 o'clock again, which is our usual time for our weekly class. Obviously, I'm missing it, and it's a good time for me to do yoga or teach yoga. During the time that we're just allowing, just be mindful of the sensation that you're feeling, okay? We're not pushing or trying to have the goal of getting that leg to the floor, but definitely you'll see a difference as the muscle lengthens. All right, so we're just going to bring that leg back out to the side and then bring the leg in. That was 1.5 minutes. Now that might have been nice, or maybe that was excruciating. So, okay, extend the left leg out now. So my right foot comes to the floor. I'm going to just shift the leg over to the side and drop the knee down. All right, and we're at 9. So we're going to go to 10:30. That's your 90 seconds. So now you'll notice that there's some space underneath your lower back, more so on the right side. And of course, you need to adjust and modify as you're needing to. So you can see why this would be a helpful little session for post-workout as well. I did a workout this morning for legs, so particularly tight in my legs this morning from the workout that I did. So this is definitely beneficial, but it did come to my mind, this workout, when I did a walk/run the other day. All right, in 5 seconds, we're going to come out. All right, perfect. And then we're going to draw the knees toward us just to flatten out the spine on the floor. That's always a nice little relief or release. Just a little bit of a hugging in thing here. And then if your hands are just below the knees on the shins, let them go and then let your feet just come to land on the floor. And from here, we're just going to butterfly the legs. So just bring the attention to where the leg bones feed into the hip sockets. And just several times work in the leg bones there. Okay, and then our next position is keeping the head resting on the headrest or whatever you've put there underneath your head. We're going to take a set of blocks. We're going to set them just at our hips. And we're going to bring our feet together. This is Baddha Konasana, but this is Supta Baddha Konasana. That is when you're laying back. So you're not prone, but you're lying down. So that means that Supta Baddha Konasana is cobbler pose. So now we've got a little bit of support underneath the hips so that your legs are just not splaying out. Because then there's muscular contraction because you're trying to keep them from going too far. So then you're engaging. But we kind of just want to allow the body to settle in and be. We're going to have the arms out to the side with the palms facing up, which means that your arms are more in external rotation in the shoulder sockets. And we'll just allow this to be in cobbler pose for another minute, because I've already done half a minute for sure with my chatting. The other thing that you could do here, you guys can continue resting, and I'm going to actually grab the prop for that, would be to use a bolster. And you would bring that at the base of the back. And then you would need that blanket to rest on the bolster so that you can support your head, and then go back to Baddha Konasana, again with the blocks to help support the legs. And then this is another beautiful spot to be. So here now we're starting to think about the shoulder blades and the opening of the front body, as well as the opening of the hips. So quite often where you can be tight in the hips, and this is a beautiful place to be to encourage a little bit more openness through the hips. So we'll stay just a little bit longer in case you wanted to try the more supported Baddha Konasana. So we'll stay for another 45 seconds. Okay, so then we'll just bring those legs back up. We're going to roll to the side. And our next position now is to start to do a little bit of rotational movement of the hips relative to the ribs. So we did ribs to hips in our stand-in work. So now we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to bring a block and we're going to bring that block into the inner thighs. So this way, you're going to keep the knees level. So you're not, as you're rolling your hips from one side to the other, they're not kind of like shifting on each other. So the block between the legs, and there has to be a little bit of a engagement there of the adductors to hold the block in place. But you don't want it to be like a huge like death grip sort of thing. And then you need to keep your shoulder girdle on the floor. So extend the arms out to the side, and then we're going to roll the hips over to the right side. So if I'm going to the right with my hips and my knees, the left shoulder blade or the left shoulder girdle is going to stay on the mat. So that is your range. So you may not make it all the way to the floor, which is really not the purpose of this movement anyway. The purpose of the movement is to keep your ribs relatively quiet as the hips roll from one side to the other. So now, when we go over to the right side again, we're going to pause there and we're going to take a breath. I always find it really interesting. We'll come through the center, go to the left side. So as your legs go to one side, how much, at least for me, and maybe it might not be the same for you, but it just speaks to the fascia chains that the muscle and tissue and fascia is also interconnected, because as my knees are going to the left, I can feel stretching of my right deltoid at the front of my shoulder there. All right, so bring your legs back to the center. And then we're going to drop both knees down. Now, just to kind of solidify this, actually, we'll bring the legs back up. I want you just to do a gentle squeeze of that block. This is really good for stabilizing the SI joint. So you can actually just sort of let go. Gentle squeeze, not a 10 out of 10 squeeze, maybe a 3 out of 10. Let go. And again, bring the feet down to the floor. Now, the only thing that we really haven't hit on at the moment was the scapulas. So I'm going to have you guys now come up. This isn't like a traditional yoga sort of series anyway. So we're going to come up to all fours and just do a little bit of protraction of the shoulder blades. So you can see I'm pushing into my hands. Shoulder blades are spreading apart. And now I'm going to start to dip my chest and my shoulder blades come together. So that's a bit of retraction. And then there's the protraction. And that, my friends, concludes the practice. So what I would like to conclude with is that you could actually do this practice. So we started standing because the reason I did this practice was I had come back from a walk slash run. So I was standing, so I started my work standing. But if you were pre-workout, you could start this practice from the all fours position and do the series of the yin poses. Well, the hip rotations first, the yin poses, up to standing. And then the last position that you would be doing is the leg swings. And then you're ready for your walk, run, hike, or workout. So hopefully this is really helpful for you. These movements definitely help me in my fitness journey. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.